Whoa. Wow. That might be my favorite twist ending in the history of cinema. Sammy was Buddy Guy the whole time. What's up, beautiful people? I'm Zack, and you're watching Zack Makes Movies, the channel where we talk about...
You guessed it, Frank Stallone.
Okay. One of my least favorite tropes in movies is one character playing two roles. There are only two examples of this that I think actually work for me. The first is Lindsay Lohan in The Parent Trap. The second is Michael A. Jordan and Michael B. Jordan in Sinners. Unreal, man. Unreal. The first time you see Michael B. Jordan in this movie, he is passing a cigarette back and forth with himself. I know that they use some new technology to do that. I don't understand it, and I won't pretend to. So let's move on. Robert Johnson, the movie. The second weekend of this movie's release saw a 6% drop in box office sales, which is pretty unheard of. If a movie has a 30% drop in its second weekend, that's seen as a big success. 6% drop. That does not happen. This was the biggest opening weekend for an original movie in a decade. And very well deserved. It's fantastic to see original films. It's fantastic to see talented directors taking on a genre we have not really seen from them before. There's a great scene in Wakanda Forever with sirens singing in the ocean to try to lure sailors to their death. And that scene told me everything I needed to know about what a Ryan Coogler horror movie might look like. That was by far my favorite part of that movie, so I was very excited to see this. It's almost reductive to call this a horror movie. It's a bit more than that. One thing I noticed immediately in this film is that they have giant CG vultures flying around in the sky for a good portion of the movie. Vultures. What does that remind me of? Vulture. Vulture rhymes with culture, vulture, cultural appropriation, vampires, white people, Irish people stealing from black people, blues music, rock music. That's what it is. I figured it out. You're welcome. All right, let's talk about some of the performances in this film. I remember first seeing Michael B. Jordan in a movie called Chronicle in 2012, which is a really cool, unique little half superhero type movie. But no one could possibly know the career that he had ahead of him, beginning just 1 year later with his now 5-time collaboration with the great Ryan Coogler. Delroy Lindo is possibly one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood. He's been around for decades. He's a frequent collaborator of Spike Lee. He absolutely should have been nominated for an Oscar for his performance in Da 5 Bloods. If you ever watch an interview... Where are you going? If you ever watch an interview with Delroy Lindo, you will get a sense of how brilliant this guy actually is. This is a true actor, which you may not know by watching his roles because he just disappears into them. Particularly, can you please, Outlaw, clearly puts a lot of thought into everything that he does and says, which is something that you don't see a lot from actors necessarily. Anyway, not to rip on actors. Delroy Lindo, unbelievable in this movie, as is Miles Caton. Miles Caton, the star of the film, Sammy, this was the first thing he's ever been in. He's an artist. I think he's like 20 years old. Lee Jun Lee was fantastic in this movie. I really liked her character. I had no idea Wunmi Masaku was British. She's insanely good in this movie. Yeah, really likable character. One thing... We are going to get into some spoilers here. One thing that's... God damn it. I've seen people complaining already that it was too much of a slow burn. There was too much build-up before we get into the horror. I did not feel that way at all. I would go the opposite direction and say I just wanted more in the second half. You know, there was so much setup for all of these characters, and I had no problem with that. I thought that was beautifully paced. And getting to know all these characters before the chaos, very Dusk Till Dawn, you really get to understand this world. It feels like a real lived-in world. There was a lot of pussy eating in this movie, which is refreshing. But yeah, I mean, it's almost two movies. The first half is sort of a getting the band back together movie, and then the second half becomes this vampire film. There's one scene in this movie. I don't know that I've ever been more inspired in a movie theater than I was watching that oneer. How he pulled that off, I do not know. I mean, the choreography, not only of the dancing and the singers, but of the camera landing in the right place at the right time. I mean, that I can't imagine how long that took for them to do. But I wasn't inspired by the camera work. I was inspired by the concept. It was just genius. It's a director showing that you can be more creative than even creatives realize. He took a swing, and absolutely that swing paid off. I mean, that was when that sequence started, and you first see the kind of futuristic guitar player. I thought, okay, interesting. I kind of see what they're doing. But as it just goes on and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, I just, my jaw was on the floor. I really, really loved that. And I wish more filmmakers would do things like that don't necessarily fit into the real world. And they're not, implying this is actually happening in the movie, but it's an artistic interpretation of how music has moved the culture for decades and decades and decades and will continue to. Omar Benson Miller from 8 Mile. Unbelievable. Another one of those actors that you recognize his face. You've seen him in everything your whole life. And then you get to witness a role that was clearly made for him and that nobody could have nailed like he did. Cornbread is easily the most fun part of the story. Please stop this. Drive me nuts. Climb back up. Ugh. Okay. Love and fellowship. That's all I want from you. Love and fellowship. Jamie Lawson, Haley Steinfeld, Jack O'Connell as our Irish vampire. The movie did oddly remind me of one of my favorite vampire movies of all time, 30 Days of Night. Just in that it's so built around the location and the setting. The world explodes outwardly from that. I did feel like the action wrapped up a little too quickly. Thankfully, we did get that. It's funny, I watched the trailer a bunch of times. That last shot with Michael B. Jordan, who is unbelievably jacked, by the way. I don't understand how he got in better shape after playing a boxer. He's holding this Gatling gun and firing, and it didn't really occur to me when watching the trailer, but he's doing that in daylight, which tells you he's not fighting vampires in that scene, but I didn't even think about that. That scene was great. But I just felt like we could have used a few more minutes. I mean, I would have taken 15 more minutes of that vampire fight scene. It was super chaotic. You can't really tell what's going on at that point. That part I kind of was a little frustrated with because, like, Lee Jun Lee, she decides to invite them inside just to get on with it and kill them all. And then she's, like, dead within seconds. And you can't really even tell who's attacking who. And some of these characters that we've built up for like an hour are just gone in seconds. So that kind of sucked. But only because I wanted to see more. It's like if that's your complaint from a movie, that's not a bad complaint to have. Stack turning as fast as he did was a bummer. Yeah, I thought Annie died too fast. I wanted to see more of her. Speaking of Annie, early in the movie, there's a moment that I love so much. I'm such a big fan of music, which is another reason I loved this movie. That guitar is one of the most beautiful guitars I've ever seen in my life. And I fucking love Buddy Guy. When you meet Annie, there's a moment where she starts striking matches to the tempo of the score. I got so excited. I love Ludwig Göransson. He's a true music genius. You would never guess that the music of this movie was composed by a white Swedish guy. A lot of people are talking about a very clear reference to The Shining in the movie. There's a shot that comes underneath Stack as he's locked in the room. So that was a nice nod. But what I haven't seen anyone talking about is the reference to The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing has a very famous scene in it where the group of people all has to test their blood to see if they are the Thing. And so the scene where they're all tasting the garlic was a reference to that, which I thought was really cool. You have to stop this. You're driving me fucking crazy, dude. But yeah, at this point, Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, Jordan Peele, those are my top current horror filmmakers. You can throw in Ty West there every now and then. But, hey, if Ryan Coogler makes one more horror movie, I'll add him to that list. Because that was a damn good movie. And I love that mid-credits scene, jumping forward 60 years in time. Something like that. Yeah, it's a Prohibition-era film, so that's like 1930-something. Watching that scene and suddenly seeing Buddy Guy with the scars on his face, I did not know if that was actually supposed to be Buddy Guy, but It'd be kind of awesome if it was. So, all in all, fantastic movie. Unbelievable first attempt at a horror film by Ryan Coogler. And, I would like to see a lot more from him. Dare I say, I would like to see a sequel to this movie. That's, you're not going to follow it up with anything quite as extraordinary as this. Because, like I said, so much of this was built around those particular characters, most of which are now dead. I would not mind seeing a sequel starring Stack and Mary as 1990s vampires. And certainly there is a way to cross over this and the Blade universe if you wanted to. If you wanted to. Don't have to. No need. And then throw in Vampire in Brooklyn in there as well with Eddie Murphy. Why not? Anyway, guys, loved the movie. Let me know in the comments what you thought. If there's anything I missed, let me know. Tell me how you'd rank this among Ryan Coogler's other films and among other vampire movies. I do want to do a video at some point on my favorite vampire films of all time, because I'm a big fan of that subgenre. And this one's definitely getting added to the list. So if you want to see more content like this, you can check out some of my other videos here. But that's about all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Irish vampires?
Yeah, it kind of hyped me up.
How do you kill? What do you shove like a potato in their heart? How do you kill?
Sinners was great, and I'm not racist. Thank you.